If you've ever experienced the frustration of your dog not listening to you, especially when you're sure that they know what you want, you're going to want to check out this video.
It can save you a lot of time and tell you that what people usually label as a stubborn dog is either misinformed, underprepared, tenacious, or a combination of all of the above. But you wouldn't learn as much, and you definitely wouldn't have as much fun because you wouldn't get to see me fall off my bike. So stick around and we'll get into this one.
First aspect we have to look at when we're talking about stubborn dogs is, does the dog actually know what you want? Is the dog clear on what you're asking them to do? And I'm going to give you a simple example. And before I get rolling, literally, I'm going to timestamp this video because there's going to be a lot of examples and it's probably going to be pretty long. So I had a dog in for training recently. I think she was about 4 years old. And when you're getting in older dogs for training, despite the long list of issues or wishes that the owners have, at a minimum, a dog of that age, or even a dog of 8 weeks old, for that matter, is going to know how to sit. So I try out the dog, give a sit command. Dog looks at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. And I ask her once or twice more, and I mix up how I'm presenting it to the dog. Move. Good job. I've got to make sure to stay on these tracks, otherwise I'm just going to sink in the snow. So, dog's standing in front of me. I ask her to sit. She doesn't sit. The dog is to my side. I ask her to sit. Nothing. I place myself face to face with the dog, and I raise my hand up. Sit, just like you would with a little puppy when you're holding a treat, piece of kibble. Sure enough, she sits right away. So clue number one is in place. Now, as far as stubborn or not goes, I don't have any food, and I ask the dog again to sit. Same way with the hand gesturing up. She sits again. And I keep doing this, and she'll keep sitting. So she wasn't holding out for food. To her, sit meant sit when the hand goes up and the gesture is in place. To her, that's part of the puzzle. Now, there's nothing wrong with gestures. Move. There's nothing wrong with cueing a dog, helping a dog. But when you go too long helping, you're actually hurting. The dog learns that this is all part of the recipe, and without it, the recipe's broken. You're not really needing me or wanting me to do what you're asking me to do. So sure enough, I email the owner and I'm like, hey, I know how you got your dog to sit. It's as if I had a hidden camera in their living room or their kitchen. And they said, yeah, how did you know? I said, well, your dog told me. Watch it, who? Whoa. I said, well, your dog told me. And your dog told me that. Yeah, crap. Your dog told me that you didn't even teach the dog to do it with the gesture while it was sitting to your side or anywhere else. It was literally just face to face. And they said, yeah, we worked with a trainer and that's what they showed us. And fair enough. I'm not judging or criticizing. I'm just chatting with this dog's owner, and I'm trying to help them understand what all goes into training a dog. It's not as simple as people think. I mean, sometimes people overcomplicate it for nothing, but there are details that we need to watch out for. So clarity, and that's just one example. I can keep you here with dozens of examples for each of the subheadings I'm going to give you, but I'll stick with one per, maybe two, because I don't want to make this overly long and have it just drag and drag. But this is very common. Yeah, buddy, you get that stick. That's very common when people talk about stubborn. You got your stick? Did you get it? He hasn't been out running in a couple of days because it's been rainy and icy, so he's got to let it rip. Let's go, Who. Go, 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 go. Go on. But was she not listening because I didn't have food? No, she wasn't listening because I didn't make the gesture. The assumption on the person's part is no food equals no listen. And that could be true with some dogs. I mean, it definitely is true with some dogs. And that's more often than not just bad training. But in this case, it had nothing to do with food and everything to do with the gesture. Now, naturally, if you don't have food, you're not going to be gesturing for the dog. So I could see why someone would assume that it's food related, when in the dog's mind, it was just picture frame related. This picture frame isn't familiar, therefore, it's not actually sit. So incomplete or unclear is really an aspect that we have to look at, where the training just doesn't add up. It's 2 + 2 = 3 in the dog's mind. Let's go, Who. He keeps rattling my spokes with that stick. I don't know if the mic is picking it up. Reminds me of when I was a kid and we used to think it was cool to put popsicle sticks in our bike wheel spokes. Last week was when I originally intended to film this video, and we were out and the snow was a lot thicker than it was today. It was still coming down. I mean, it was just beautiful out. But I could not get my bike through. And right about over here, actually, I was snowshoeing because I was trying to make a track, the track you see in front of you right now. And sure enough, my dog was running right towards the edge of the driveway, just a few feet from the road, and someone was walking by. And I called out for my dog to come when I noticed where he was and the speed he was moving at. To sign up and train their dog. It's not about that. Hooligan, come! Yes! Nice. Nice. Good boy. Yes. He had no training equipment on him. Hooligan, let's go! He had no training equipment on. I didn't have or offer any food rewards. There was nothing there, just old-fashioned training. My dog is conditioned to a word. He believes in the conditioning of that word. I have effectively conditioned or brainwashed, if you want to look at it that way, my dog. And that allowed him to come flying back to me like a bullet. Literally came back as fast, I might even say faster, to me than he was charging out. And there was a gentleman, I think it was a guy, walking out in the road. And for those of you who are familiar with my dog, you'll know he's wildly social. So he would have loved to go say hi. And yet his response coming back, beautiful. Why does my dog come back when I call him regardless of distraction? Why does my dog let go when we're playing tug and I tell him to, even though he's head and shoulders into the game, growling and thrashing? Why isn't my English Bulldog stubborn? Right? That's a breed that's known classically for being stubborn. Oh, you snooze. Because my dog's well trained. You got it, buddy. You look like a reindeer. Another aspect that often isn't considered is context. That means that you've trained your dog to do something, but the context that your dog can do it in is fairly limited. Meaning the level of distraction, perhaps the duration. And you think that because your dog can do it, that it means your dog can universally just perform. And dog training doesn't work like that. So I'll give you an example. I'm working with a client and their dog is bothersome at the table. And we teach the dog a place command. Right? Many of you may already have taught this to your dogs or you're working on it with your dogs. And now the dog is doing a reasonably good place. So the dog can stay on place throughout a meal. And then they say to me, well, I'm going to have 40 people over next weekend for a dinner party. He's going to listen, right? Not necessarily. It doesn't work that way. So, just because your dog can do it in one context doesn't mean they can do it in another. And a good rule of thumb is, if you want your dog to be able to perform in a specific context, then you need to build up to that and practice that with your dog. So if you're looking to increase duration, I've got clients that will take their dog to the office, to their place of business, and the dogs will stay on place pretty much all day. Of course they get breaks to go out, go to the bathroom, little play break here and there, water break, whatever break. Point being that the bulk of the day is spent on place. For a lot of dogs, that beats staying home alone. Because when they're home alone, they're pretty much doing place in the sense of doing nothing, if they're really alone. So, did they just go from teaching the dog to do place and it can stay on for 20 or 30 minutes and then assume that it's going to do hours and hours on place at the office? Absolutely not. I gave them a system, they understood it, they built it up, and they taught the dog to be focused and resilient and competent in its job. I'll always come back to the competent aspect. I'll always come back to clarity, where if we want our dog to be able to perform at a high level, we've got to give our dogs clarity. This is 9 out of 10 times where I'm going to see a dog fail. And really what we're seeing is the failure of the training. So context is a big deal. Another aspect with context is distraction. You work on teaching your dog not to jump on you when you come through the door. And your dog improves. Look at that beautiful horse. Yeah. What's up, folks? Your dog improves at the door. Doesn't jump on you anymore. And now again, you have that dinner party with a bunch of people coming over. And the context changes. It's still your home, but it's different today. Unless you've prepared the dog won't be able to cope with that. And then to further compound what the context does to your dog, think of what the people are doing on their way in. Oh, Murphy, I haven't seen you in so long. Murphy, oh my, I missed you, buddy. And so Murphy is getting cranked up. Everybody is charging his battery. And then we say, well, he knows what it means, but he just doesn't want to stay on place tonight, or he doesn't want to listen to the don't jump up training that we've been working so hard on. And there's some overlap there with another aspect that people mistake as stubborn, which I'll get into a little later. But that's how context influences a dog. And if you don't prepare your dog and your training for context, you're setting your entire team up to fail. Easy, killer. Those of you with working dogs or working bred dogs will nod your head throughout this section. The level of drive that your dog possesses can absolutely make your dog appear stubborn. Dogs have drives for a reason. We've built them that way. We've engineered them that way. And we've built them to do jobs. So we build a dog to do a job, and then we take that dog and we say, well, you're my pet. You don't have to be a working dog today or ever. The drives don't automatically disappear just because we want them to, and just because it's inconvenient for us. So what that means is you've got this giant pickup truck because you're a contractor, but tomorrow you retire and you keep that pickup truck. And now you just go to Costco, where a little car would do you just fine. And you're just driving to the corner store. And you say, well, don't be stubborn. Don't you be wasteful with my gas. And damn it, why do you make it so hard for me to park and find a spot? You bought that truck. Look in the mirror. That's who you need to yell at. The same thing applies to dogs with working drives. They've got drives for a reason, and you've selected that dog. You need to understand and work with those drives and those instincts, or else you're just fighting them all the time and you're feeling frustrated with your dog. The strongest, most impactful example I can give you, and I can go on with this topic all day and night. This could be a 24-hour bike ride, and I would not run out of examples. I had a Malinois in the 90s named Larko. And Larko was from a police department in the US. Now, like any good working Malinois, he was a very driven dog. And I had him from the age of, I'm going to say roughly 7. And I had him for 7 years. So he lived a good long life. And I learned so much from that dog. I think about him all the time. I always feel a debt of gratitude to him. And just, he was my buddy. When Larko was old and dying, so I'm mentioning this to give you some context. The dog's not well, and his body's not working. And he is shut down. He's effectively shut down. Lights are off. On the last day of his life, I wanted to give him a little joy. I wanted my dog to feel the sunshine one more time. We're out in the backyard, and I take out a bite sleeve. And those of you with a Malinois or any dog that's trained to bite will understand this is a true joy for a dog. And my dog, whose body was shut down, who wouldn't walk, wouldn't move, couldn't articulate movement, didn't really, for all intents and purposes, was checked out. You could see he didn't want to be there. The minute I put that sleeve on, he came flying at me, and he bit that sleeve, and he thrashed. I better get off the ice here. He thrashed around like a young dog again. And then I slipped the sleeve to him, and he ran around the yard with it, just like he was a young dog. And then when I took the sleeve away, when I gave him the out command for the last time, I mean, this is really the bell tolls for thee. I took away that sleeve. He looked like he was just gonna crumple up like a dried up leaf that you can crumple up in your hand and just blow away the dust. But in that moment, when he was biting and thrashing and just doing what he was born and bred to do, he didn't feel his body. He was unaware of the lack of nutrition, the fact that his joints hurt, the fact that his muscles atrophied, all of the things contributing to the end of his life, him shutting down, were not present in that moment. Was he being stubborn? Was he trying to cheat death? No. He's in a driven state, and that's all it was. And it was amazing to witness. It was beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time. It was a very meaningful moment for me with my dog. As a dog trainer, all these years later, I can look back on it with a little more detachment and be more analytical, just break it down. Right there, I just saw my dog smile for the last time before he closed his eyes for good. Another part that factors in is an owner's bias towards their dog for whatever reason. I've seen a lot of different reasons play into this one. Could be the breed of the dog. Could be the fact that the dog's a rescue. Could be the fact that they got the dog during COVID. I've had people tell me the dog is stubborn or has behavioral issues because of COVID. Meanwhile, they bought the dogs 2 years prior. So bias tends to work in conjunction with other factors, and I'll explain this. The dog doesn't listen because the dog's not trained and the owner's not educated. But because of popular beliefs, regardless of whether they hold any weight or not, regardless of whether these popular beliefs have any merit, the owner buys into it because their friend, their neighbor, their vet, their dog walker, the 800 Facebook groups they're part of tell them your breed of dog can't be trained. This breed is famous for not listening. So then the owner buys into that and then attributes all the disobedience, the lack of behavior to that. Hooligan's an English Bulldog. In theory, they are lazy. They are not obedient. They're difficult and stubborn and so on and so forth. And nothing could be further from the truth. Now, Hooligan has an owner who's very dedicated to training him. I started training Hooligan on the drive home from his breeder's place. That's a 10-hour drive, more like 14 hours when you're with an 8-week-old puppy. By the time we got home, he already had some marker words. He already knew his name. We were off to a good start. A couple of days later, we had a recall. His recall is spot on. I have video of him being recalled when he's in full chase to sign up and train their dog. It's not about that. Hooligan, come! Yes! Nice. Nice. Good boy. Yes. So something. Why? He's an English Bulldog. He's not supposed to be a trainable dog. He's extremely trainable. And he can be hard-headed. Believe me, when he has his mind made up about something, he's a very willful animal. But I know how to play the game. He's not my first rodeo. So I don't pin it on my dog being an English Bulldog. I just do my job and train my dog. Let's hope we survive this ice. Yo la la. Sometimes people think they're telling their dog to stop doing something when in fact they're actually encouraging the dog to do it more, and they'll attribute that to stubbornness. I had someone bring a dog into the kennel for training earlier this year, and the dog was whining a lot in the car. And the owner said a couple of things to me. The dog is very anxious. She whines all the time. Oh boy. And she's very stubborn. So she then explained to me how the dog was whining the whole drive over. That was pretty sketchy. This is all ice here. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. She explained to me that the dog was whining the whole drive over. And they don't live far, but there's a lot of road work going on a bridge near us, so it can take a heck of a long time to move a few kilometers if you're caught in that bridge's traffic. So the dog's whining non-stop. And I observed the dog in the kennel while the owner is there whining. And the owner can't bear if the dog whines. It just grinds her nerves. You can see it. So she looks at the dog, shushes the dog, pets the dog, does everything to appease the dog to just make the whining stop. Is the dog stubborn or is the dog brilliant? I don't like being ignored, is what the dog is saying. I'm going to go down at grandma pace here. This is just raw ice. What idiot decided to ride his bike here today? Okay, ice is done with. So then I observe the dog whining, and I say to the owner, listen, just zip it for a moment. Don't talk to the dog, don't look at the dog, don't shush the dog, don't touch the dog. And I start pointing out to the owner how the dog whines and then looks directly at the owner, as in, pay me. And the owner sees the connection right away, clear as day. Now, naturally, the owner wants to fight me on it. Well, yeah, but nothing. You're training your dog to whine. And then you want to call the dog stubborn. And then remember how I talked about breed bias? The dog's an old English sheepdog. So someone told her somewhere they are stubborn. She's heard it from the internet. She's heard it from Facebook. She's heard it from the dog walker. She's heard it from the Costco cashier. You name it, someone told her the dog is stubborn. Someone told her the dog is bred to be a certain way. And I said, well, if we're going to make that claim, you first have to do everything perfectly for a year. And if you do everything perfectly for a year and the dog persists, okay, then you can put the crown of stubborn on your dog. Otherwise, what are we really talking about here? Is the dog stubborn, or are you actively training your dog to be noisy because you can't take the noise? Let's go back to DNA for a minute. Let's go back to purpose. What was your dog bred for? You may have a terrier. Terriers are not bred to work with you. They are not bred to work for you. They are independent contractors. They are hitmen and hit women. Get that rodent, kill that rodent. They're not looking for direction. They're not looking for hand signals. They're not asking anybody for a ride or for a GPS. And then we get this dog and we bring it into our house because they're cute. And then you say, well, I've trained him to stop with the damn squirrels, but he's stubborn. He's not stubborn. It's genetics, it's drive, it's instinct, it's programming. The dog is wired to be a certain thing. And then it doesn't conveniently fit into our concept of what it is to live with a dog. If you were a farmer and you had a problem with rodents, if there were foxes in the hen house killing your chickens, and the terriers were doing their job, you'd be proud of those dogs. You'd be thankful for those dogs. They serve a purpose. And certainly as a trainer, I see what the purpose of the dog is. And to me, that doesn't equate with a stubborn dog. They are really tenacious. And if you want human examples of that, you look at anyone who's highly driven, right? You can take any of these very driven dogs, Malinois, Jack Russell, Border Collie. That's your Steve Jobs, that's your Elon Musk. That's someone who doesn't give up. They'll have a lot of failures, they'll keep pounding away. They don't care, it doesn't stop them. They're gonna go and have success somewhere. Another way to look at stubborn is real simple. If it works for you, the dog's tenacious. I trained a dog years ago named Lucy, and the owners couldn't keep her. So I took the dog from the owners and found a home for Lucy. And I found a home for her with clients of mine who already had a dog we had trained together. And Lucy was a very interesting dog. And I got a phone call from the new owners a little while later saying that they had an interesting story for me with Lucy and a new house that they had moved into. And Lucy was in the basement and she wouldn't stop digging at the basement floors. She just kept trying to dig, and they tried to get her to stop. They couldn't get her to stop. Long and short of this is there were rats under the floor. Underneath the floor, underneath the subfloor, a rat's nest, a rat's den, whatever it's called. And Lucy's instinct, and she was not a terrier, she was a golden mix, but she had instinct, and she knew something was there, and she was trying to get at it. Their other dog, as far as I recall, zero reaction, which makes sense, remembering those two dogs for what they were. He was just, I'll hang out on the couch all day, I'll play with mom and dad a little, and I'm good. Lucy had a ton of instinct. Lucy stayed with me at the kennel when her original family gave her up to me for at least a couple of months till I found a home for her, so I was very familiar with her. And it didn't surprise me one bit when they told me this story. But was Lucy being stubborn? Nah. Lucy was just a dog with drive. That's okay. Yeah. So improper training or unsuccessful training can often look like the dog is stubborn. And oh, there's my water bottle. Look at that. I wiped out here a minute ago. Guess I dropped my bottle. Never know what you'll find out here. All right. So like I was saying, bad or unsuccessful training can look like a stubborn dog because as far as the owner knows, they've put the effort in with their dog. They've tried, they've paid someone, maybe paid multiple people, consulted with trainers or vets or behaviorists, and if the dog isn't improving, then more often than not, hooligan, let's go. More often than not, it's going to get pinned on the dog, in my experience. So one example that comes to mind is one particular dog that actually two different aspects of the training can be talked about here. So I've got to watch, it's a little icy here today. The first part and the real problem I was contacted about is that the dog was a chicken killer. I want to preface this by saying the owners were good dog owners, nice people. They weren't happy about what's going on. They had tried to work with other trainers, didn't have any success. Now the local farmers are saying if your dog comes back on our land, we will shoot your dog. And the owners, A, don't want the chickens getting harmed. They for sure don't want their dog getting injured or shot, and they don't even want the dog running off to neighboring properties. So they send me the dog for training, and the dog did wonderfully. And he was such a good dog. Super jacked up around chickens. We have a chicken coop at the kennel. But controllable. Was a lot of work. And remember when I always talk about belief systems. The dog believes that chickens are his on site. And because he's had a lot of success at getting those chickens, it's not a small job to now convince the dog otherwise. It's like someone who has successfully robbed banks and made millions, and now you say, well, things are going to change. History has taught them that it pays really well to rob banks, so they're not going to give up right away just because you say so. In any event, the chicken killing subsided, and it taught the owners what they needed to know. Now, side note, I got an email from one half of the couple thanking me and saying that I fixed or cured the dog. And when I read that email, I was horrified. Hooligan, let's go. Go on. Go on. When I read the email, I was horrified. Because if you think the dog is fixed or cured, it means you don't understand instinct and how your dog's drives work. So I was on the phone with them within seconds of reading that email, because if they think that the dog is different, if they think I lobotomized their dog, the dog is absolutely going to go back to his old ways, and more chickens will get harmed, and maybe the dog gets harmed too in the process. So we had a chat and that got cleared up. Now the other part that was super interesting is when they brought me the dog, and this was not a training issue. This was not something that was on the wish list. It was really about the chickens. But they mentioned to me, they said, do not have a tennis ball with you, near you, on you, or a Kong, because he will jump and bark and just hammer you. Not aggressively, just persistently. Give me the ball, give me the Kong. And the last trainer told them that the dog was too excited for the ball, that the ball should be written off. In other words, the ball is too much, and rather than train for it, and why not train for it, right? The dog loves it. And think about what we're talking about with the chickens. You don't think he's going to need an outlet for all that prey drive? You don't think he just needs exercise? What easier exercise for an owner than to stand still, cup of coffee in one hand, long plastic arm in the other, whipping that tennis ball back and forth. That's my big hill on the property. So that made no sense to me at all. And the first thing I said to the owners is, what makes you think, let's go, Bubba, let's go, let's go, 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 go. So what makes you think So one of the first things I said to the owners was, what makes you think we're going to have any success with the chickens if we can't get the dog to cooperate for a lousy tennis ball or Kong? Now, you've got to bear in mind, the dog's drive for the toy was extreme. I'm talking customs dog, detection dog extreme. But the dog can be controlled. And the dog can be taught that when you play by our rules, you gain access to this. So it's very, very simple, in fact. And in almost every case, the more driven a dog is for something, the easier it is to control them around that object, around that stimulus. Because if it's a stimulus I'm going to grant access to, then the dog learns very quickly that it's in their interest to do things my way, because that's how they get what they want out of life. So the more you want it, the easier it is for me to manipulate you. So I've had the dog in for a grand total of 1 day in training. And I've emailed the owners earlier in the day, hey, your dog's doing okay, your dog is settling in nicely, and he was just such a nice guy. And then I send them a short video clip. And it's just the dog sitting still. I mean, it's cute, but it's not showing any behavior. It's not showing any training. Until I pan the shot, pan the camera around. And now you see me standing there with a tennis ball in one hand. And now all of a sudden, the context of the dog just sitting there is a wow moment. It's like a moment. Let's go, Who. Let's go, buddy. So, the last trainer said, dog can't be around the ball. You can never use a ball with the dog. Don't carry one on you. I mean, the dog's barking was so intense, and it was rhythmic. It was like a metronome. It was just like, pop, 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 pop. Jumping up, bouncing. And I just showed the dog, you're not going to get it that way. You don't win what you want by behaving that way. And in fact, the opposite is true. If you just sit there, I mean, if you looked closely, you'd see him trembling, which is really funny. The dog's trembling. It's the middle of the summertime. But he's trembling with nerve and excitement. He's ready to explode. But he's containing all of that. And then he's unleashing the fury when I tell him, okay, and I toss the ball for him. My old Malinois Larko was the same way. Now, Larko was a police dog who I rehabbed. And my neighbor at the time, this really nice guy, Gary, had this really nice, really placid German Shepherd mix named Jerry Lee. And Jerry Lee was just an easygoing dog, really nice. Just like Gary, they were a real pair. And Gary used to see me with Larko sometimes, and he'd say, hey, your dog shivers a lot. And Larko looked the part, being a Malinois. He's super slim, zero body fat. He looked like a triathlete on meth. So he'd see him tremble. And then one day, summertime, I don't know, June, July, August, it's warm out, really warm. And Larko's trembling because I'm standing there talking with Gary, but I have Larko's toy. Hooligan, let's go. Hooligan, come. Let's go. So I'm standing there talking with Gary, and it's warm out, and Larko's trembling. And I look at Gary and I say, geez, Gary, what's the matter with my dog? I gotta take him to the vet. It's hot outside and my dog is shivering. That's enough, buddy. He's just loaded up. He's like, Nick, what are you doing talking to this guy for? You've got a ball, throw the ball. Let's play. And that's just drive all loaded up. So bad training, incomplete training, improper training. The dog can't stand up, can't speak for himself. Your Honor, I strenuously object to the accusation of me being stubborn. So-and-so didn't teach me well, explain to me clearly my job detail, right? Sometimes I get involved with a client where it's a group of people, a family, and they're spinning me in circles. One person has one story, one has another. One person has no issue or sees no issue with the dog's behavior. And before we even get rolling, I just stop them. I say, wait a minute. What is going on? What is my task? Unless I'm clear on my task, I can't be of any use to you. We can't have a productive time together. Let's go, Who. See what happens the minute I'm outside of the trail. You just bog down. Let's go, Hooligan. We only got like 20 more laps. So the same thing happens to the dog. What is my task? What do you want from me? What am I supposed to do? What do you expect me to do right now? Hooligan, let's go. So my dog is bored. So we're moving slow. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Go, 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 go. Oh, crap. Nice one. Let's go.